Hey guys, welcome back to the Oilers Fanatic. Today I'm kicking off a brand new feature, the Oilers Fanatic podcast. And today I'll be featuring my guest, good friend, Mike Barteski. Mike and I will be discussing the Oilers' 5-0 start to begin the regular season. So today I wanted to go over a few topics with Mike. We're going to be talking about the new guys on the team, Zack Kassian, Mikko Koskinen, and overall thoughts on the 5-0 start. So, Mike, I'll throw it over to you first. We'll start with the new guys. Give me your thoughts on Zach Hyman.
You know what? I was a little bit apprehensive at first. I saw what he did last year when we played against him so many times. You really don't. You kind of take it for granted almost in the fact that when they're not in the copper and blue, that you don't really give a crap who they are, what they do. But now that he is wearing the right colors, man, oh man, I'm sure glad that he's on our side. His tenaciousness, and I love that how in the after game, when Zach was just saying, like when Cassidy was saying, he goes and goes and goes. He's a workhorse. He wants the puck. He's all over it, and it's infectious. He said that it makes others have that same hunger and tenacity. And man, like 4 goals in 2 games, a shorty is one of them. Like, wow, this guy's a stud. I'm so glad that he's on our team and on our side. And the fact that it doesn't matter which line he could be playing with Nuge and Yamamoto and still have some kind of viability, or he can play with Connor. And like him and Connor have a really good mesh right off the gate. And like, it's only been 5 games.
Yeah, exactly. With Zach, I just like his versatility, how you could play him anywhere in the lineup. And like you were saying, I was watching that Zack Kassian interview earlier and just saying, yeah, how infectious it is, his work ethic, how he never quits on the puck. I didn't think he was ever going to leave Toronto. I was shocked when the Leafs didn't offer him a new contract. I mean, I would have traded some other guy. Like, I know they're tight against the cap like everyone else, but I would have traded somebody else to make room for him because I think it's a mistake to let that guy off your team. But hey, their mistake, our reward.
Well, that's exactly it. And you look at it now, and you look at even tonight, like they're getting beat up by Pittsburgh 5-1. Like they're not doing, like they put all their money into 2 new goaltenders, brought in that young decor, and I think they only brought in like a right winger. And like, they're really putting a lot of onus on Marner and Matthew. And like, I was talking with some guys at the shop not a couple days ago, and it's really hilarious how you look at it in the fact that, you know, what the Oilers have done the first, and I get it, it's only 5 games, but it's been a progression and the camaraderie and stuff. And then you look at Toronto, and it's almost like they've regressed into what the Oilers were like 2-3 years ago. Or even say 5 years ago when it, you know, right after Connor came back from his shoulder surgery, right? Like they just seem out of sync, and they need a guy like Zach Hyman to help right that ship. But it's like, that just tells you the kind of pivotal presence that he has made. And he wants to be here. That's the thing that's awesome, is that he wants to be here. He chose to come to Edmonton.
Yeah, exactly. And just one other note on Hyman, just like all around great person. Like you'd want, it's the kind of person you want in the locker room, the kind of person you want representing your team in your city. Like
reading one of his books to your kids.
Yeah, I know.
Like
exactly. Like I don't know anyone who doesn't like Zach Hyman now. You don't have to be like, well, he does this and well, but I don't really like him for this. It's like he's the whole package for you right now. So
yeah.
Love that acquisition for the Oilers.
He can stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy. And like the thing that gets me is that because of his tenaciousness and the fact that he just scored 2 power play goals on his ass, you know, legitimately, he scored from his, you know, posterior. Like that to me just blows my mind. But there sometimes can be, and we've seen this in the past, there's sometimes as a consequence to that tenaciousness. I just hope that, you know, he really is in a position where he doesn't overdo it, without augmenting his game. But man, we just got to stay healthy. Like, look at already, Mike Smith goes down, but man, we still haven't really lost a stride. You know, the boys haven't played 100% to their capacity yet either. And like, look where we're at, 5-0.
Exactly. Well, let's move on to the next guy. Give me your thoughts on Warren Foegele.
Man, I can't tell you how much I love this kid. This guy, Matt, he reminds me of kind of a hybrid of Ryan Smith and Jason Smith. Just his tenaciousness. He commands that presence on the ice. And when he scored that goal the other night against Anaheim, I was like, wow, this kid's for real, right? And he's all over it. That third line, man, if they can somehow keep up this pace, man, they're scoring every first goal so far in the first 5 games. That's insane. And it's not just the same dude. Fogel's done it. Cass has done it. Derrick Ryan's done it. You know, Evan Bouchard, when he's played on that line and from the back end, like, it's just, it's awesome to see. You know, it also reminds me back in, like, you know, that early 90s when the last time the Oilers won the cup, and we had you had the kid line, you had Graves and Bukaboom, and it was just, that's what it reminds me of. They just went to work. They put on their hats and they just went after it. And he is just, you know, he commands that presence. He digs. He's just like Hyman, he's like Hyman light, you know, but I think it's going to come. And like I said, most of these guys, like, this is for real games, the last 5 games. Just wait and see as they progress and as they mesh even better, what it's going to be like moving forward. And it's a guy that, hey, if something were to happen with an injury bug or something, I'd have no problem throwing him up on the first or second line. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's another guy, like they said when they were getting Hyman and Foegele, that they're really similar players. You can move them up and down the lineup. And him, along with Derrick Ryan and Zach Kassian, I think they've formed like the best third line we've had in years.
Dude, it's been forever.
Forever.
When was the last time that we haven't had to say, you know, Jujar or, you know, some kind of, like, even Archie, like, God love him, right? But the thing is that, you know, we have a legitimate third line. Even our fourth line, it hasn't produced yet, right? But I like the tenaciousness. They're out there banging and crashing, and it's not like they're not getting chances. And eventually it's going to go in. Could you imagine if we actually score a few goals in the next 5 games from our fourth line too? Like, that's almost lunacy.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I think it's coming. Like, yeah, I think we all knew, like, Brendan Perlini was going to cool off after the preseason, but it'd be nice for him to get it going there, eh?
You know what? Yeah. He has, but at the same time, he still hasn't changed the way he plays. They've had opportunities. He just hasn't been able to bury it. But you have to remember, preseason rosters, you know, as opposed to not preseason rosters, it's 2 totally different things, man. And you know what? I think, like you said, I think it's going to come.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And you're going to get more playing time in the preseason too, right? Because he's getting more, they want to see what he can do. And fourth line obviously isn't going to play what the top 3 lines play, right? So,
yeah.
Well, let's keep on going. Thoughts on Derrick Ryan?
You know what? I had a conversation with a Calgary Flames fan, one of the researchers that I work with. He's a huge, diehard Calgary Flames fan. It's unfortunate that his mind is tainted, but at the same time, he said the one player that he wished that they never got rid of, just like what the Toronto Maple Laughs fans are saying, is Derrick Ryan, because he was that workhorse. He's a face-off, like, dude, the dude can win face-offs, man. And he's composed. And he really is the linchpin for the 2 big oafs on his wings, right? Because he really is. He's kind of like the grandfather, bringing the 2 boys to the woodshed, and they're just going and they're choppy. They've already started to read well off each other. But, you know, like Tip said, he goes, they've been really working hard at winning faceoffs. And then what do you do after the faceoff? Because they almost look deer in headlights for the last couple of years. It's like, wow, we won a faceoff. Oh shit, what do we do? Because usually we lose them and we have to go and chase, right? when you're winning faceoffs, like, man, even with them coming up to be like, I think it's like 40 or 45%, which is a huge progression over last year, even. It's what do you do after that? And, it just goes to show. You look at that, and I love what Louis DeBrusque said last night during that, I think it was the second intermission, when they had that friggin' power play, and they had to have had like 8 or 9 shots, and they were just cycling it, and it was like tick, tick, boom, tick, tick, boom. And I was shocked that they didn't score on that power play. But that's just like, that's how potent that is. Like, it's incredible to me. It really is.
Yeah, he's another one of those character guys too, along with Zach Hyman. I just remember when Cassian went down, when he hit his head there on the ice, and just like Derrick Ryan's like, oh, I've already gotten close with Cass, and it just.
Well, that's what I mean. He's like that. Yeah. He's like that father figure in between those two dudes, right?
So yeah, like you said, the camaraderie that's already there, and I love the faceoffs guy, and like for the cost, like I think he's $1.25 million,
right?
And Calgary had nothing but cap space to, like, how do they not bring that guy back? But
because like I can understand it's all about Kachuk and Goudreau, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Plus, they have what, $40 million wrapped up in Markstrom. Like, you know what? I'm really glad that we dodged that bullet. I really am, because now we have a legitimate understanding of what to look for in goaltenders coming into this offseason. I don't think that they re-up Mikko Koskinen. I don't think that's a thing. But I tell you, Mikko's not doing anything detrimental right now to hurt his chances of getting another NHL job next year. Because, man, between the pipes, I was actually quite impressed. I'm like, even though he spent most of the time on his knees in that game against Anaheim, he did really well in that second half. Other than that typical Mikko goal, he played really well. And like, I don't know about you, but I've really noticed an entire difference as far as the camaraderie and how the team actually is with each other. They seem to be actually playing for each other. And I haven't seen that in forever, right? Like when Hyman scored his first goal, I think Leon was more excited for him than he was. Like it was incredible to see. And like, just like it's the little things, right? Like this, they're doing this, this bonding thing. Like, man, could you imagine if these guys actually, go, hey, like, we'll go to the ends of the earth for you. We'll go into those deep trenches for you. Right. I like our chances to getting into the playoffs this year, man. Like, I really do. But you need people like that third line that we have, because it was Winnipeg's third and fourth line that, put the dagger in us in 4 straight last year. So, if you got that depth, and your showboats can go and do their thing when they're needed, but you can get some help from that third and fourth lines, man. Like that's the key. That's the ticket.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next guy, Colton Savior.
You know what? Even after last night, he's another one of those sandpaper guys, and he's not hurting our club at all. I think, it takes a lot for a person to come in and get kind of a base salary contract and be effective when he needs to be called on. I like the fact that the reason why Benson and Sevier got to play last night was Tip wanted everybody on the trip. They really want to build that, this is now what Holland's vision is for the team right now. They want to win right now, but they need to gel as a team and really become, an army of one mind, one sound brain. And even if they're your fourth line sitting in the box, right, watching the game from above, to get them to play and still have the ability to beat a Vegas club, even though, hey, injuries suck. I get it. We've been Oilers fans for however many decades, and when people go down, it sucks. But the fact that he could come in and still be valuable, he hits well. He's not hurting us from a skating standpoint. I just wish that he'd be even a little bit more physical and muck it up a little bit more. But you know what? As far as a 14th forward goes, I don't hate it.
Yeah, no, he was one of those value signings for $750K. He gives you your value. So, yeah, I was really happy with it. He earned his spot out of camp. So, yeah, I've been really happy with him so far.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to the defense. Duncan Keith.
Man, you know what? And I said this, and you and I talked about this even before the season started, man. I friggin' love that guy. What he has probably brought to the bench in the dressing room. And then it's like, hey, who's the pairing on the ice right now? And then you see Duncan Keith flying, and then it's almost like he's got a magnet in his brain where the puck is. Where's the puck? And he just goes to it, right? And I think that's got to be tough for CC a little bit. But I don't think I've seen CC sweat as much as he has playing with Duncan Keith, because Keith makes him like, we got to go. We got to get this done, which is awesome. And you know what? He's got probably one of the fastest first passes I've ever seen, because he can snap that sumbitch. Like, look what it was. It was like he snapped that pass. It went off Fogle into Cassian's stick, and Cassian got a partial break and scored that go-ahead goal. And it's like that's how quick he can do it, man. Like, that's what he used to be able to do all the time. But like all the pundits, like Rashog and all these guys, I wish he would actually shoot more, because I really think that he could cause a little bit more of a disturbance, especially when he's on the ice, mainly with those second and third lines for the most part. But yeah, he's awesome, and you can see that he's still chippy. He still likes to go in and muck it up, but yeah, like just that first pass, like I would really like to see. And you can kind of really see the tutelage that he is bringing onto that young decor, man. Like it's good, man. And not just the decor, because you hear accolades that he's getting from the forward group too. Like everybody seems to just like him, right? And again, he's that strong veteran presence that we were looking for and we never had until this year.
Yeah, you were mentioning the Winnipeg series earlier. I think a guy like that would have been huge in helping the Oilers turn that around. Like,
slow down, calm down. We're not out of this. Every game's gone to overtime, right? Let's play our game. Don't go chasing, right? Keep the puck out. And I think he's having these conversations with the Bouchards and the nurses and all these guys. It's like, you know what? If you're getting in trouble, flip it over their heads. Because I've noticed that this year. I don't know if you have. It's like, oh shit, I'm getting into a little bit of a pickle here. And it's like, toss it over their heads. Whether it's icing, like what did they have? 3 consecutive icings, and McDavid looked like he was spent last night there, which never happens. He was on the ice for what, a minute and 60 or a minute and 55 or something like that. But still goes, wins the face-off. They tossed over. This time they put enough weight on it and they were able to switch and get off. But man, but those are the tangibles that you can't coach. That's something that you need to get from your teammates and go, because it's like anything, right? We have bosses, we have people in our life that we have to listen to. And it's like, sometimes it's just white noise. But when it's somebody that you appreciate and it's somebody that you're going into the trenches with every day, you listen a little bit closer and you take their opinions because they're right there with you.
Yeah, exactly. Just one other point I wanted to bring up on that. I can't remember whose tweet it was this morning, but it's something along the lines, I wish some people would stop pointing out like Duncan Keith has made errors, Cody Ceci has made errors, but some people are just focusing so much on each and every error just to make it a point that, because a lot of people didn't like those signings or the trade, and they want to pick on those players because they didn't like the trade. And the rest of us, and the guy in the tweet said, the rest of us are actually enjoying this 5-0 start because we're not trying to pick apart everything that someone's doing wrong. So, yeah, you might not have liked the Duncan Keith trade. I wasn't 100% on it, but it's in the past. It's over. He's an Oiler for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Cody Ceci's here. Why not just enjoy it? Why are you trying to find...
that's the thing, right? Just enjoy it. Like I told you right from the beginning, I love the fact of the Duncan Keith signing. I really did, because I couldn't stand Caleb Jones, right? Yeah. Caleb Jones was a thorn in my ass, and I just couldn't I could not like him. He played the game the way that I didn't think that we wanted to play it moving forward, right? And look, he's ineffective in Chicago. Chicago's a dumpster fire, and now we've got Duncan Keith, and hey man, everybody makes mistakes, right? Connor makes mistakes all the time, but you don't see people picking that apart. And the fact is, and you said it right 100%, is we're 5-0. I don't care. You can't dismiss it. Just like, all these pretend fans were dismissing the fact that, you beat Ottawa 9 games straight. That's such a big feat. Well, nobody else did. And nobody else handedly beat him those 9 games either. So, yeah, that was a pretty big deal, right? It doesn't matter at the end of the day what the stats were, but why is it that we were the only ones then?
Yeah.
And you're not going to make everybody happy, right? You're not going to make every Oiler fan happy. You're not going to make every, whatever. But people have to look at it as, is this team better than the team last year? 100%. 100%.
For sure. The depth is everything.
Well, but it doesn't even look like the same team, man. Like it's
no, it doesn't. Yeah. So last guy on our list, we've already touched on it briefly, but Cody Ceci.
Man, you know what? Again, he's a workhorse. And I think, he's what? He's that mid-tier range in age too. I think he's 28, 29, or is he not that old?
I think, he might be right around there. Yeah.
But regardless, the amount of information going to that poor boy's head being Duncan Keith's, what does he skate around? Okay, you know what? Don't fuck up. We can't mess this up, man. We can't. Let's just, everybody's looking at us like with a fine tooth comb. And that's the, unfortunate reality sometimes of being in a Canadian market, is because, all of us that sit at home seem to know exactly how the team should be run and how things should go. But I don't think he's been a detriment. Hey, he's made mistakes. Yeah, shit happens. Wear a helmet. I don't care. Right? Cass made a whole bunch of mistakes last year, but everybody loves him. Right? And everybody still loves him. And look, he's already eclipsed his goal total from last year by 1, right? So he's got 3 goals in 5 games. The guy's a beast. He's on a legitimate third line with not a Jujar card, not an Archibald, not a this guy, not a, this other person that doesn't have the tenaciousness, right? You've got a linchpin, like we said before, with that great face-off man, Derrick Ryan, and look what it's happening, right? And Cody Ceci's the same thing. He's got Duncan Keith there that he can learn from. He's going to learn from all these guys. His foot speed needs to get a little bit better, and I think it's going to, and it has, even from game 1. But again, just like Savior, I'd love it if he would actually crash and bang. He used to do that in Boston and Pittsburgh, man. He used to be a little bit more of a harder hitter. And I think if they let him do that, that's great. I wouldn't even hate the fact that, one thing that we did talk about was the fact that when Nurse and Bouchard are together, and I don't hate that.
No, I think Nurse and Bouchard is going to be the Oilers' top pairing for years to come. I think this is kind of like Bouchard's coming out party for the Oilers. And then, because I think eventually.
That's the thing. Yeah. My question to you, man, is we've talked about all the newbies, but man, Bouchard, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no. Well, he's looked fantastic so far. I mean, I think he could have been on the team last year. I think he was just.
I'm glad he wasn't though, because I'm glad he's on the team. This team, not last year's team, because we didn't need a regression. We didn't need him getting in those poison. He took what he took from last year, sitting upstairs, watching, seeing all the heart, and then he played those last few games, and then he played a couple games in the playoffs. Right? He saw enough. This is the team I'm glad he's around, because the veteran leadership, the boys are that much hungry. You can tell, right? Look, McDavid's got a quiet 11 points in 5 games, right? Because nobody wants to talk about him, right? I get it, but at the same time, I don't, right? My boy Draisaitl, right? Nobody gives a crap about Draisaitl, and he's seriously, for the last 5 years, is the second best player in the league, yet they never even put him in the top 10. That to me is just lunacy.
Yeah. This isn't a new pin, but I picked it up from the 780 yesterday. I'm sure a few people have seen it, but or am I the Zoomer? Draisaitl is better than Matthews.
Oh, because he is. He's better than Marner. He's better than Matthews. Man, he's better than Nate McKinnon, right? You know why I can say, yeah, it's awesome. You know why I say that? Is because has Matthews or Marner or Nate McKinnon won a Hart Trophy? No, right? Dry has, right? Yeah. McDavid's done it twice, right? Come on now. And all this bull crap about, oh, yeah, this person, that person, McDavid's got 6 goals in 5 games, guys. And if you don't think he's trying to go after the Rocket Richard, which is the only real trophy he hasn't won yet, I'm sorry, League. Unless you guys heard him, I can't see it not happening this year. And like I said, it just, you know what, man, the officiating needs to get better, though. I like the fact that they started calling some of these cross checks and stuff, because that was getting a little ridiculous, right? But at some point, right, when Bettman gets murdered or he dies, and they can actually take this game into, where it should be going, which is forward and not backwards, is the fact that the playoffs should be officiated the same way as the regular season, because if they're not, then it's 2 totally different games, and that's not cool for the fan, right? I don't care if it's a 10-8 game in the playoffs. Bring it on. I give 0 shits. I just want it to be consistent. And in 3 years of playoffs and not 1 penalty drawn by McDavid, that's a broken system.
Yeah, exactly. I think guaranteed we'll see the first game the Oilers in the playoffs, McDavid's going to draw a penalty. I'll be shocked if that doesn't happen.
Dude, but so you have to remember that the hockey gods are on our side. But the overlord of Bettman doesn't want a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup.
Well, he'll have to.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope it proves me wrong.
They've gotten close. They've gotten to the finals and stuff. Multiple Canadian teams, so they've had their shots. But
they've had their swings at it. Now look at Montreal. Well, that looks like they might actually win a game tonight, so that'll be a good 1-5 start for them.
Oh, poor Montreal. So I wanted to talk about Zach Kassian, but I think we've talked about him pretty well. Let's talk a little bit about Mikko Koskinen and the start he's had.
Man, I've been up and down with Mikko in the last, 2-3 years. Hate his contract. His contract was absolute dog shit. But he was given that contract because we had nothing else at that time. So they had to give him something to stay. I get it. Bring in the Messiah, Mike Smith, and he gets put on the back burner. But last year, the thing that again, this team is different, man. This team this year is different. Mikko's different. Like the presser that he had after the game last night, he's like, and I love this, that it's not just the Oilers, it's every freaking good NHL player, netminder, doesn't matter who they are, coach, the fans, man. The heartbeat of this league is back in the building, and you can see, right? You can tell the difference, man. And Mikko said, he goes, I love the fact we went into the Lions den, and he goes, and it just gets his blood going. He goes, it just makes you want to go. You hear the chants, do all that stuff. He goes, it just makes me want to play harder. It makes me want to play better. And he goes, seeing guys in front of him like the Hymans and the McDavids and the Kassians and all these guys doing their jobs and trying to help out. The only thing with Mikko is that, man, the guy can't catch a break on absolute horseshit goals against. Like these guys with their crazy tips and 3 trickles off the ice and it goes through the wickets, or, even that goal that Vancouver's little muckluck there scored against Mike Smith the other night, and where, Smith was caught cheating just a little bit, but it's like, it's those kinds of things. That's what beat us out of the playoffs last year, was just these, guys from nowhere, right? Just like Vegas last night. But last year we would have lost that game last night. This year, it's a different team, man. Zach Kassian has the game-winning goal, right? When did we say that last year? Never. When did we say that the year before? Never.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with Koskinen, I did multiple videos this summer about how I wanted change in goal. So yeah, I definitely wasn't championing him for him to be back. But now that he is, like I said with other guys, like he has my full support now that he's here, and he's been fantastic so far. I have zero complaints about him. Hearing his pressers from before the season about how he was missing his family last year and stuff, like I don't have anything to relate to that. So it breaks your heart a little bit, and definitely makes me want to cheer for him a little bit more. I almost felt bad that I was doing all those videos about wanting him gone, but I think the thing that really broke me last year was when the game where he let in like the first 3 or 4 shots in a row. I'm like, okay, this guy's got to go. Like I can't keep putting up with this, but all the credit to Koskinen. He's been amazing so far this year. So I just hope he keeps
he's
it
an
up.
every other year goalie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like he has a good year, he has a not so good year, he has a good year, has a not so good year. But and I know he's in a contract year, but man, oh man, COVID, everything that's gone on this last couple of years, it's plagued everybody, and everybody's people have to remember that all these people are still human beings, right? And the brain is a crazy thing, man. Like, look at Adam Larson. Adam Larson said, hey guys, it has nothing to do with the organization, has nothing to do with the city, but my flipping dad died there, man, and I couldn't get that out of my head. He needed a change. I don't hate him for that, right? No. And I didn't hate him for the fact that he got traded for Taylor Hall, right? It was an unbeknownst situation that was out of his control. That's just what happened, right? But the fan base is maniacal, and it can be, right? Hey, I was the same way. I didn't love the trade, but at the same time, I knew Taylor Hall was going to go, right? So at least you got something, right? But then you bring in Mikko Koskinen. Like I said, I think it would be a regression and a slap at Stuart Skinner if they go and re-sign Mikko, even if it was just a 1 or 2 year deal, unless Mike Smith says in the offseason, he goes, guys, I got injured 3 times or whatever. I can't go. But at least you have options. I really would have liked to see Stuart Skinner on this little road trip here, other than just being a backup, but I can't see him playing on Wednesday either. I think Mikko's going to get the buzz on Wednesday as well. But yeah, because how could you not? He's got rest. His mindset's great. He played well, man, and he had great defense in front of him for the most part. And I think they're only going to get better. And as this camaraderie gets even more, and I think who was it that said? I think it was Gene that said, he goes, "Could this be like the boys on the bus round 2? Right? Could these guys mesh and meld and be such the cookie cutter fit that this is exactly what this team and what this city needed, or what the city needs right now," right? Because I can't see these guys going and losing 10 straight. There's no way, because when I think it was the last time we had that 5-0 start in 1920, and then they lost 4 of 8 in the next games. I can't see it. I just can't see it. I think that the momentum's in their corner. I think they have the best power play, and they're going to have the best power play in the league again this year for a 3rd year in a row. And the penalty kill isn't killing us, because I thought, how are you going to have a penalty kill without Jujar? Because really, that was the only reason why we paid him almost $2 million for 3 years. But Derrick, Ryan, Hyman, Draisaitl, like, oh my God. And I think Tip even threw McDavid out there a couple times just for the sake that we had so many penalties that one game, and he just wanted Connor to get on the ice, right? Couldn't do anything, right? That's not his echelon. But, and the fact that we have a shorty. When was the last time? I think Archibald scored our last shorthanded goal, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that we don't get many. Is just awesome. Yeah. And the fact that one of the other things I wanted to bring up was, I don't know if you ever, kind of keep this in your brain, but when the Oilers are playing a team and they pull their goalies, right? And it's like the Oilers can never get that extra goal. And then it was like straw broke the camel's back. They tied up, and then maybe they lose in overtime. Maybe they win in overtime. But that hasn't been the case this year. Like, they've legitimately thrown up some good, even that one from Draisaitl last night. That was like this for me. I was like, right? And then the one that Draisaitl had the game against Anaheim, and then Anaheim turned around and scored. So it's like, thank Christopher, he actually scored that.
Yeah,
and that
winning goal.
Right? Could you imagine if we went to overtime against Anaheim? Like that would have been a momentum killer, right? But yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but it's nice where every night we're not talking about McDavid and Draisaitl. They're part of they're a part of it, but you have other guys, your people, like, and it's not just us as fans, it's the pundits and the people that are talking, and it's the Bouchards. They're talking about Nurse being a juggernaut again, playing 28 minutes a night, right? Like we said, how is Duncan Keith going to be effective? Keep him around that 18 to 20 minutes, and that's what they're doing, and he's effective, right? People make mistakes, but I'd rather he make mistakes against guys that can't score on us than be in the top line scenario, playing 28 minutes and being dogged in the third period and making those mistakes when they're going to be detriment and maybe lose us a game. Because I can't see that happening. Because the guys that are on there right now, and I looked at it in the last 3 games, it's like Nurse and Bouchard are on there, being the dynamic duo usually in the last 3 minutes because, hey, you know what? Go with what your strengths are. Tyson Barry, that's going to be a conversation for one of these next things because he is a conundrum in my mind.
Barry's struggling a bit, that's for sure. I think by the end of his, because he did a 3-year contract, I think he'll be on the bottom pairing by the end. Well, he was actually I believe he was in the third pairing yesterday with Chris Russell. So, yeah, he's got to pick it up a bit because he hasn't been noticeable yet in a good way this year.
See, and that's the thing too, is that he hasn't been detrimental. Like he hasn't cost us a game yet, right? But yeah, his effectiveness has been 0, right? And why when he's on the power play, he's not shooting that. Like that's me, nitpicking a power play that's almost 60%. But at the same time, it's like, man, shoot the flipping puck, man.
Yeah,
and don't shoot it into like every time he shot on the power play. The last, probably 2 games at least. These last 2 games, it's like he shoots it and it's he hesitates because he's not confident in his shot, and then it gets wrapped up in Buddy, or it goes high and it gets blocked, or guy gets his stick down in the right place and it gets ricocheted off. Man, like. The guy just needs to break the camel's back there, right? He needs a goal or an assist or just a really good overall game to bring him back to life. Otherwise, I think if we're looking at being in a position where maybe we're at the top of our division, playoffs are coming, and the trade deadline's coming up. I know you don't want to get rid of a defenseman, but I don't think at the trade deadline. But I think if you look at it and see where this team ends up at the end of the year, maybe he's utilized for another piece. Maybe he's utilized for a goaltender that we need, because we've got some real stellar like Broberg. Broberg's playing, decent down in the AHL. He's got that same Nurse affliction, though, is the fact that he needs to step it up even down in Bakersfield, but it's going to come. Like, the guy is too big of a beast. If it doesn't, then there's assets you're going to get for Broberg, because he'll fetch it for somebody, right? I hope he doesn't have the Rasmus Dahlin syndrome where he's just non-existent, right? But who knows?
Yeah, well, he could definitely be a trade chip because he's got a short contract, like after this year, only 2 years. And if you have Bouchard and Ceci in your top 4, he is a movable asset. Whether someone wants to take him or not, and when you can get back,
well, because see, and this is the brilliant thing about Holland, man. He's got Cuckoo just sitting there, right? Yeah. He's cycling between Chris Russell and Cuckoo, and I get it because Russell is injury prone too, right? And because of how he plays, right? He's like Jason Smith on epinephrine. Doesn't fight, but man, he'll block every flipping shot that comes out in front of him, right? And he has no fear that way, right? But those are the guys he want blocking shots. The Devon Shores, that fourth line. If we're going to have a conversation, let's have a conversation about that non-existent tool of a person, Tyler Benson. Man, get rid of him. He's just like a bag of pucks out there. I get it. He's in a really nefarious position where, he's just not good enough to actually make the team and be on one of the lines. But when he comes in, he didn't do me any favors last night. I think he made that Sevier Devon Shoreline worse last night. Like, I don't know, man. I don't see what everybody else sees in Tyler Benson. I really don't.
Well, he plays well in the American Hockey League. It's just not converting to the National Hockey League, right?
Well, look at Ryan McLeod. Yeah. Ryan McLeod came in last year, and he was a gangbuster in those last 10 games, and non-existent. He had a really shaky preseason. He was skating well, but he was just not on it. And now he's down in Bakersfield because it's like, hey, I'd almost look. You see what Bakersfield's doing. Bakersfield's not. They're playing pretty good. That Lavoie, man, like we got some great pieces. And I think you said it great the other day. It's like, could you imagine coming into March because Holloway's already starting to skate and stuff, but could you imagine then adding a piece like Holloway to this mix, right? You don't have Tyler Benson next year, but going into, preseason next year, looking forward with my little crystal ball, and you've got like Dylan Holloway now in Yamamoto's position. And that's why, that's another guy we haven't talked about is that, I can't get any luck by a flipping point Yamamoto, right? He's been buzzing everywhere, but man, you got to stop taking penalties. He did draw 2 huge penalties for us in the last 2 games, but man, the guy's got to score, right? Like if we're only talking about Yamo and Tyson Barry and, and those are our only 2 real linchpins, that's way better than, we have a third and fourth line that's not doing well and Mikko's letting everything in the first period, right? Like it's a total different conversation that we're having. And that's a conversation that can be fixed where you don't need 5, 6, 7 pieces coming into the playoffs or into the off season. If you have guys in the wings and you just need to, tweak 1 or 2 positions, man, I like that. That to me is a lot easier and a lot better going into an offseason where you only need to have maybe 1 or 2 positions. And then possibly if you can find a goaltender or if you don't, and it's Skinner's backup show next year with Mike Smith, so be it. Right.
Yeah. I think that's what the tandem is going to be. I think it's going to be Smith and Skinner next year. And I think Koskinen, if he plays well enough, he'll probably earn a contract somewhere else. And if not, he's probably going to go like the KHL or something like that.
Absolutely. He'll be playing somewhere. Yeah. He'll definitely get retained for some work somewhere.
But yeah, well, my hope is that Smith and Koskinen can close out the year for us. And then you can probably look, I would say at the trade deadline, really to be looking at that right now. But I think on the right side, on the right wing, we're looking for something and probably depth on the right, on right D. That's probably where we're going to add unless
just in case. And you're talking about depth in the fact that if there's injuries and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Because right now, who do we have on the right wing? Really evened out. Like you're going to have to bring one of these young kids up, right? Because you have Sevier and stuff, but I could see Fogle and then maybe bringing one of these younger guys and putting him in a role. But I don't know, man. I don't get rid of that third line. I really think you don't take that up. If you have the first and second lines, if you can keep cycling the guys through like they have been, great. You got to demote Yamo down to the fourth line, and you got to give a guy that's tenacious and working really hard, like a Devon Shore, and put him up there to roll with the big boys. I think he could do it, right? Look what Tippett did with Archie last year, right? Archie was a third, fourth line guy, but when push came to shove, he was the one up there because he could bury the pucks that McDavid gave him, right? If you can go and be opportunistic and actually bury the puck, right? That's why I like Puljujarvi, man. Like, some of the people are saying, he cooled off in the last 2 games. Guys, like, what do you want? They can't all have 11 points in 6 games, right? But we're winning. We're 5-0, man. 5-0. And I feel sorry for these bigger kind of teams with, kind of lackluster special teams because, you look at Philly, that because I think that's who we play at home on Wednesday is Philadelphia. I like our chances. I think with the tenaciousness that we have now and the fact that we have that third level of scoring, I think that makes us that much more dangerous.
Well, any other final overall thoughts before we wrap up here?
This was really cool. I enjoyed this, man. Thank you very much for inviting me. I like it. And you know me, we could do this all the time because I am very long-winded when it comes to talking about the Oilers. I don't know, man. I was excited the last few years. I was really excited last year, but it's that calm, cool kind of like, you don't want to be talking about the playoffs, but I think that's already a foregone conclusion because if this team can't make the playoffs, then there's something wrong, right? I think they're in a realm where it's just it's time. Holland did what he did, and I really think it's going to be that next level that everybody has been waiting for because, like you and I have talked for the last 3 years, we needed veteran presence that could still play the game. And we have that now. And look, 5-0. And I'm not discounting any of the guys that we're playing against, Calgary, Vancouver, Anaheim, because they're playing well against everybody else. They played well against us, but we're just finding a way to win, whereas we weren't finding those ways to win the last few years in games like that, right? Because how many times did we talk about it's like, wow, we played Washington, we lost 4-3 in a shootout, but man, it's Washington. Or it's Colorado, we beat them, 6-4 or 6-5. Wow. And then we play Anaheim, and we lost 5-1 to Anaheim. Phoenix beat us 3-2. What? Right? But we're not having that conversation yet, and that's great. And I think that to me is the more kind of sense of positivity around this team, and the fact that there's fans. Like, I didn't mind watching hockey and how it kind of looked like NHL 2020 with the season last year, but man, there's just something about that electricity of having fans in the stands and that extra bit, and you can see when the guys are down, there's that little bit extra pickup once the fans start chanting. I just hope that they get louder and louder and louder in Rogers because the team that Holland's now put on the ice, and this is his first real echelon of his team, I don't hate it.
Yep. No, it's been a great start and just hope they can keep it going. So let's wrap it up there for today. Mike, thanks for joining us here on the first Oilers Fanatic podcast. On behalf of Mike and myself, thanks for joining us. Please let us know your comments in the comment section below. You've been watching the Oilers Fanatic. Thanks for being a fan. Take care, guys.